So Ela Mishum the Ikal Mifra. Everybody has the place on Daf Vav and Aleph towards the bottom of the Yomud. Malahanoch Shekain Hechsher Mitzvah. And here we have Machlokas Rashi and Tosfos. According to Rashi, the Gemara is assuming that there's a contrast between the cases of Binyan Beis HaMikdash and Kibbud Av on Shabbos on the one hand, as opposed to Yibum on the other hand. In the cases of Binyan Beis HaMikdash and Kibbud Av on Shabbos, there's no possibility of fulfilling the essay without violating law. Meaning, you can't build a Beis HaMikdash without violating Meleches Boneh. You cannot cook food for your father without violating Meleches Mavashel. That's called Hechsher Mitzvah according to Rashi. In the case of Yibum, in contrast, you could be makayim your obligation vis-a-vis Yibum by what? By Chalitz. Tosfos, on the other hand, has a different understanding of the Pircha. And he's saying that the reason why in these cases there's no overriding the Losaseh is because the mitzvah will not be fulfilled until later on. And there's no simultaneity in the essay and the Losaseh. Now, I understand that very well in the case of Kibbud Av on Shabbos. I'm not sure if I understand it in the case of Beis HaMikdash. Just sign in again. That was who Rabbi Kabusa? Okay, see if you can get Bloomberg. Bloomberg is a little more complicated. Because I think it's wife's phone. If I say Miriam Bloomberg, I think if you call Miriam, then you'll get the message to John. So Shekain Hechsher Mitzvah. This is Rashi. Efshel Kaimo be often acher el al yidei tchiyas halav. V'lachein ha'isad Torah tzricha l'mayit v'lomar shebinyan beis hamikdash eino doche Shabbos. Aval b'yibum ein averes halav hechshero hayochid shel ha'esei sharei yochel hu lachlot v'lo lavar al isukari shel ha'chos came madua tzorech es masha omer Torah biachos isha leo harigam below ze lo hayinitcha isra achos isha mipnei esei diyim. Okay. But then Venira Lari on the bottom of Daf Vav and Tosfos, 5 lines up. The lav de mechamer muki. We're not talking about building the Beis HaMikdash. We're talking about bringing the what's it called? The stones, right? Right? So the lav de mechamer mukila, v'hachilo nelef bi alma, the lo lidchi lav greda. You cannot derive from this the conclusion of lav greda. Yeah, but how's that going to help me in a lav sheif okari? That's what I don't understand. Yeah. The internet is back on. If you'll sign in again, the same link, it should go through. Try again, sorry. Okay. So let's now take a look at page Mem Gimel. It says here on the left column, in the middle of the column, Yochel Amalo Aviv Yitame V'Altatzir Aved. Nechleku Rishonim Ha'im Bakoshas Ha'av Litame Ibishvil Kvod Ha'av. Meaning the father saying to the son to be metame. Where's the element of kibbud av? He says lo hashiv lo aveda mi beis hakvaros. So he attended a funeral, and never he lost his wallet in the funeral, in the cemetery. So he's asking his son, who's a kohen, to enter into the cemetery. Or more likely, actually, how would he have gone to a funeral? Oh, if it's one of his, if he's a kohen hedron of one of his close relatives. Or alternatively, maybe you just say that his sheep, roamed into a cemetery. V'chein shamalo al tachzir hainu sheba'oso zman yasok b'chvodo u'mishuma esek b'chvodo hava bidashi dachu isurei Shabbos tuma v'aveda. So that's one school of thought in the Rishonim. Oh, now we have another school of thought in Rishonim. Shebakoshas ha'av einek shur b'milui tzarchei ha'av. El kach ritzono shel ha'av she'itama b'no, o she'imona milahashav aveda. And das harbi min harishonim she'anidon b'ofen she'tzivo lasok b'chvodo. Am I right that there isn't?
I tried to log in and it's another meeting going.
Oh, I have to close down from another meeting.
I don't know.
Just 1 second. How do I do that? Do you know how I close down? I thought I did close down.
Initiate like you do. I don't know.
Yeah. And this is frustrating. I wish they would show me that option on the screen.
Well, if you just go to the normally shut down after the year.
I should shut down this meeting? I already shut down the previous meeting. I went into this one. That would be a third one. I could do that, but
This, in fact, is a new meeting. They don't have the access.
Even if I shut down the other meeting, which I'm pretty sure I did.
It's the same number? Yeah.
I could read to you the number of this meeting that's going on now, if it helps. 892-5973-5841. That's called the meeting ID. Okay, whatever it is, we did what we tried to do, and let's just go on. Okay. Acharitva kosav shetzivu ya'av hi levatolo. The father is not asking him to be mechaben him and be osek b'chvod. Kein kosav adrisha v'dasa rifa rosh. The af pashtus loshen Rambam. Remember, we had the Magen Mishnah, but the simple reading of the Rambam was that Michem Amalo Aviv Lavar al Divrei Torah. So he's not talking about lasok b'tzorchei aviv. Mashmish lo omar lo lasok b'kvodo. El shetzivo lasos can't live atol. Atol means for no constructive reason. He does a drisha. The Avanas Rambam. Fine. Now he doesn't develop this, but it would seem to me that if he's just asking him levatol, you have a serious problem, because what's the havamina that I should override a mitzvah, a lotzas shel Torah, just because my father said so? In fact, he might be a Rosh. I don't even know if there's kibbud av in a Rosh. I don't know. Yesh Sovrim, on the bottom of page Mem Gimel, She'im Tziva Av Libno, Lasos Lo, Ezedover Shalolit Sorach Kvodo, Eno Chayv Lishmol. And that's what we wanted to say to him. If he's not telling you to be osik in his covenant, then Stam, he's violating the Torah. And not only that, Afilu Hayadvar Shus, as he doesn't accept what we established yesterday, that Sivui Ha'av generates a mitzvah kivu. The Yesh Sovrim, the Yesh Bazakir mitzvah, the Kolakom Shita Shein Bakochut Shal Kibud Av Litchos Losas, the Lahutzach HaKosim Lachadishov. And ilu hayav mitzaveu lasos isu shelo litzor kvoda arinasa av rasha v'eno mitzuvah bichlal b'kvoda ubehechrei shekol anilu ksivo lasot b'kvoda. So again, this is a paragraph to substantiate and support that opinion in the Rishonim that the father is asking him lasot b'ritzon. Okay, now Rashi in the sugi of Omaloli Tame, Kidei Lahoshiv Lo'aveda. Rashi says Kidei Lahoshiv Lo'aveda. Sha'omar Av Lebno Kohen Litame Beis Hakros Kidei Lahoshiv Lo'asavidoso. Like we said before, he left his wallet in the cemetery. Kosav Aruch Laner Shein Lahakshos in Yodea Avu Shavedi Beis Hakros. Wait a minute. If his father knows exactly where he lost the wallet, Ein zu Aveda. There's no mitzvah Aveda unless you're not aware of where it is. It's lost. And he says, no. If he doesn't go in there, which he's not allowed to do, then it's going to get lost. Somebody's going to take his wallet. That's the Aruch Laner. V'yod kosav hechreicho shel Rashi l'farish kenu al dev mash kosav rishonim li'el, that the father must be getting some benefit here. Mashanoket Rashi dafka nos hashovas aveda below shar hanos. I'm not sure what he means by shar hanos in the case of Beis HaKvorot. Can anybody think of a case? I don't know what I know does he get from his son going into Beis HaKvorot. El mishum sugyas hagmar b'matzia ivia brayse zulagab musham shim hois aveda beBeis HaKvorot ein kohen metami lashiva lebalea. On. Okay. Now let's fast forward to the next paragraph. He says, "Hagmar ba mitzia makshal braysezu l'shein mad tzarich hakosav l'mayit shelo yishmalo." When his father tells him not to return an aveda, harei af she'esei dochelosa mikobolein ein esei dochelosa v'yesei. And here in the case of Hashavas Aveda, we have both a losas and an essay. And for that matter, even in the case of Tumas Kohanim, the Torah says V'kidashto, that he has to remain pure and not contaminate himself. So the Gemara answers, Lule Amir Hava Mina Hova Hukash Kibud Av Va'em L'Kvod Shel Mako. We're going to upgrade the status of Kibud Av. And therefore, Yeshlo Lishmolo Lavar Al Isa. Even if it's an essay to Losa, Kamashman Shlo Yichmalo. Yeshlo Farish Kushas Gemara Al Omelo of Vitome, Umishum, the Yesh Betumas Konim essay Shel Kedoshim Yu, Velosa Shelo Yitama Bi Omov. And therefore, the Gemara knows that for sure we would apply the principle of Ein essay Doche Losa Seviesen. Close this, sorry. So Rashi, okay, that's another issue. Now I want to see Rabbi Kibega. So that's on the left column on page Mem Dal. Amar Rabbi Kiveger, al Kushas HaGemara now. Lama li mute, shelo yitame, mepnei kiverav, halo ach belia mute, hareza lo yitame mishum de ein esei dochelo sevi esei. That was the Gemara's kasha. Why do I need a special mute to exclude Tuma for Kibbutz for Tuma? Because anyway, it's an essay in Alosa. So Kivega doesn't like the Gemara's kasha. He says, Arishita Sarifa, listen to this. This I found fascinating. Tosuchu. Shali Olam Nidcha Lotas and essay. Even in the case of a lotas and an essay, the essay is docha the lotas. The Afshiesh Imam Malkus. Even though normally you would get malchus for this losas, but because the essay is docha the losa, you don't get malchus. But raka essay she'ima, the supportive essay, eno nidche. Benafkaminish and kiyam essay v'aro alav v'ha essay eno loke mishum she halav nidche. Im ken hayinu imayinu osum olav li tame. Rak mishum she'ein essay docha losas. Mikomakom lo haya loke. Sorry, alav du tuma shaper nidche because of the essay of kibbutz. Beloya over ela ala essay shel kedoshim tiu bilvad. V'ein loken al bitul essay mashenki liachar mute. Of mi ish imov yov tiro v'shapsosi tishmoro im yavar v'itome is vada yilke. Sorry, melamdenu amute. Shebemokom lav. I think there's a word missing here. It should say b'mokom lav v'essay. Yeah, I would add the word v'essay. B'mokom lav v'essay ein klal essay shel kibbutz. V'im kain af halav shel tuma omeid b'eno. Right, in the case where the lav is supported by an essay, then the essay that's coming to be docha alav does not have any power to be docha. In other words, we integrate both the lotas and the essay into one entity, and we elevate it to a more stringent level, such that an essay cannot trump a losas of the essay, and therefore he's violating the losas, and he'll get malchus for the losas, and that's a result of this derivation from Ani Hashem. So why is the Gemara so up in arms as to why we need the drasha of Ani Hashem, if anyway ain't essay dochalosa v'essay? The answer is, under the law of ain't essay dochalosa v'essay, the essay would be docha the losa, so you would not get malchus. You just left with a bittul essay. But now that we have a gzeres hakasa, the Torah is saying that there is no essay in a case of a lotas of the essay, and you get malchus for violating the lotas. So this is, he's going back to the paragraph earlier, V'nechleku Bazer Rishonim, which we didn't go through that thoroughly, but there's one school of thought that the Gemara was asking a kacha in Bab Mitzvah on Hashavas HaVeda. It says, Ben kach ein malchus al alav shelo simcha l'sal mishum shu lav she'ein bo ma'aseh. So the Gemara has justified in its question, its objection, why do we need what seems to be a redundant drasha of Eshapsosei Tishmor Ani Hashem? Because there's no nafkamina l'gabi malchus. We have a principle of ein essay tochalos sevi essay, and whether or not you have a violation of the losa, or you do, whether or not you don't have violation of the losa based on the riva, or you have violation of the losa, in any event there would be no malchus. Because the lav shemo ma'aseh. Achlushitas hasoprim shekushas gvori al tuma sheha over v'nitma loke. Why does Gemara claim that Eshapsos Tishmani Hashem is redundant? It's not redundant. I needed to teach me that when he's metami himself by going into Beis HaKfaros, and he's doing that actively, nevertheless, he gets malchus only after the pasuk. Without the pasuk, he would not get malchus because the essay would override the law, and he's only guilty of a bittul essay of kiddushim. But now that we have the pasuk, there's no possibility of being docha the lotas, and therefore he should get malchus. And that's the chiddush that we derive from this pasuk Ani Hashem. Now v'tiritz. Now we get to the answer of Rabbi Kiva. Shakusha hi ala brais loma nokta biofen zesh omaloli tomen. Sheyesh bo ese velosa sevenimtza shekol chidush haTorah ule inyan malchus v'lo nokta sha'omalo lavar alav bulvad. V'yeh nafkimina mechidush hakosu v'etzem mashalo yishmalo. Meaning the Gemara had two choices. The Gemara could have chosen as the Brisa had two choices. The Brisa chose the case of Tumas Kohen. It was a case of Ese Velosas. And now the whole Nafkamina in this Brisa is Malchus. The Gemara, the Brisa could have chosen a much more fundamental Machlokas. And that is whether you apply the principle of Ese Dokolos at all. Is there an Ese? And that would be in a case of a Lav that doesn't have the support of an Ese. Oti, which Torah Lamdenu, Shelo Yishmalo, V'ena Omrim, Shenase Ha'av Rasha, B'kachem Tzavei Dovar Osu, Yeshuveni Machui B'chvodo, Umishum Shem Nidcha Alav, Nimtze Shetzivo Al Dvar Heter. Meaning there's a great chiddush here in the Torah of Ani Hashem, teaching me that we don't listen to the Father. And what was the hobby that I would listen to the Father is because he's not a Rasha because of Esei Docholosas. So the Father himself, by commanding me to violate a law, is creating an essay, and now that essay will violate and override a losas. And therefore the Father is not a Rasha. He's not telling him to violate the Torah. He's telling him to fulfill the mitzvah kibbut av, which overrides the lotas. But now that we have the pasuk is telling me says, according to the Riva, mitzaveu lavar al bitul essay sheinu nidcha. Then came shuv rashahu ve'enu mechuyev b'chvod klal. Right, there's no decree on the essay in the case of a los sevi essay. So therefore, the father is a rasha. So if we were only talking about a lotas, then we would say the father is not a rasha because we'll apply essay don't los and he's not asking his son to violate a losas. But if it's an essay that supports the lotas, then since there's no dechia in the essay, meaning ein essay docha essay, it's only docha the lotas according to the Riva, then the father's memela a Russian, and he's telling him to violate something which is not nidcha, namely the essay. He's therefore shaper hikshasa gemara lomali amiruta now. Arei benkach ein nidochu lo alav v'lo essay. Why do I need this mute? Even in the absence of the mute, there's nothing to be docha the law because the father's a Russian. And even though the father is saying, well, now I'm going to command you to violate the Torah, and therefore the mitzvahs of essay of kibbut avim will emerge, and that will override the law. No, that's not so. It won't override the law. I mean, it is so, but that's not going to save him from being a Russian. Why? Because even though the essay will override the losas, but you still have the essay. And the father is now telling his son to be mavatal an essay. That itself is rishus. So the Gemara therefore asks, why do I need this pasuk? It's completely superfluous, completely redundant. And again, that's only according to this answer of Kiveger in a case of an essay losas. If it was just a regular losas, then it would not be redundant. I need the pasuk to tell me that the father is with, right? That I need the pasuk to tell me the father is not within his boundaries and his rights to engender or create an essay so that the essay kibbud would now trump the losas, which would be mafkir rishus. And that's the finish of this pasuk. Let's read that last line and then I'll let you go. The Shapir Hikshisa Gemara. Lama li hamiyut hanal. Why do I need this mute? I'm not going to say that the father was a Russia by commanding him to violate the Torah. Because if we're going to be Dochad Olav, then he's commanding him to do a Dvar Heter, as he calls it. But when he commands him to violate the essay and Losas, like in the case of what? Of Tumas Kohanim, then in such a case he's a Russian because the essay cannot override the essay. And therefore he's telling him to be Mavatal and essay. Is Lomali Namutanal, Hare Benkach, Amy Dochim, Lo Alav Lo Essay. Why? Because he's a Russia. There's no essay here in the case of a Russia to override a lav in an essay. Why? Because even if Kibbud Av were to emerge, it would trump the Los Haseh, but he's still stuck with the essay. He cannot be Mavatal the essay. And therefore the father's a Russia, and if the father's a Russia, then there's no mitzvah to be Machabed his father, and therefore cannot override neither the lav nor the essay. Okay, then? So that's where we got up to.